HDSLR shooter, sponsored by Black Magic Design, Carl Zeiss, and Animals.
My name is BJ Winslow, and you are at my shop, Dapper Cadaver. It's a business I run with my wife and an extremely talented crew, making the best haunted house props and death-related TV and movie props that you can find. Let me show you around Dapper Cadaver. Okay. Right now, we are in the bone section. We have, as you can see, these are large horned animal skulls, antelopes of various kinds, cows, buffaloes, giraffe is the big one there at the end. We also have replica human bones all throughout these bins here, replica and real animal bones. This cabinet here, we have life cast human skulls. Go ahead and take a look all down that row. Skulls should be as unique as human faces. No two are alike. I mean, you can see these two guys right here. Both of these men. Both of these are men. Both of them about 6 feet tall. This guy's a little taller, but you can see clearly different people, different character to the face. You know, you can when you have a couple of skulls together that are life cast, authentic, you can see the difference between people's faces, and when you have a set of them, it really lends that realism, you know, to your production. Anyway, we've also got animal skulls. This is one of my favorites. This is a bear, cave bear, big guy. The idea of horror and thrills and the macabre is just sort of always present in my life. You know, when I was a kid, I definitely remember there was a particular shop that I would go to that was like a Halloween store. It was a Halloween store and a toy shop and a comic book store and a pet store, all in one building. And they had like a monkey, like this bald monkey that they had from like the 60s before it was illegal to have pet monkeys, and that was right by the door, and it would scream at you when it would come in, and it would like throw fistfuls of its hair at you. And I would just go there and I would spend hours there. You know, everything I loved was in this one building, and I was like, I want to shop like this when I grow up. And so I made that happen. I made a shop where everything I love can be kept under one roof. I had done some toy design and worked at carnivals, building and repairing carnival games for a couple of years. And when I moved to LA, tried a couple of things before banging down the door of a prop shop, and got a job making headstones for them. It was the first thing that I got hired in props to do. Made 4 headstones for some direct-to-DVD Buena Vista feature. I worked about a year at another shop, and then I freelanced around for about a year as well, getting more clients, getting more inventory, getting more skills, getting more talented people, you know, within my sphere. We got our skeleton section. We got a bunch of different kinds of skeletons. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You know, this is sort of a This is actually a high-end Halloween skeleton right here. For a Halloween skeleton, that's good. You can see he's pretty short, about 5 feet tall. You know, this is what's called a medical skeleton. You know, and this is sort of like a basic model that we use. You know, it's good for a lot of things, and it's good for making mummies and cadavers with. This is a top of the line medical skeleton. And then this is one of our realistic crime scene skeletons. It's got a life cast skull and a realistic paint job, and you can, you know, again, you can really see the difference come out. For a while I was working from my own house, and you know, people would come in the middle of the night and bang on my door and hand me a fistful of cash, and I'd hand them a gallon of blood. And my neighbors all thought I was a drug dealer, which would actually have made more sense than the fact that I was a blood dealer in the middle of the night. You know, but I mean, you can't stay in your own garage. You know, if you really love this stuff, you gotta get your own space. And so as soon as I was able to find a storefront, moved in, started a shop, and just kept doing what I loved. Real authentic caskets. This guy here is 100 years old. All the rust that you see on it is real authentic rust. All of the caskets that you see on this wall are authentic caskets. Diversity has always been a big part of the business. You know, we make realistic bodies and body parts, life cast bodies and body parts, and we want, you know, to find everybody who needs one. And you know, so from the very beginning when I was working at the other prop shop, we'd get calls for Halloween, and my boss didn't want to deal with the Halloween stuff because it was a prop shop. He did stuff for movies and TV shows. He didn't want to deal with Halloween parties and events and stuff like that. I did. I'm like, you know, if we got stuff that they want, I love Halloween. Halloween is everybody needs a dead body. So it's very busy here, and people will book their Halloween parties, their Halloween events, you know, months in advance. You know, but people will show up at the last minute too, and we always got something. We always got some fantastic stuff available for sale or for rent, for any size house party. You know, we've worked on just some guy in the neighborhood, and we've worked on Will Smith's house, the Playboy Mansion, the White House, the Halloween parties that they've thrown there. Those were really cool, and yeah, you get to rent the same stuff that people are using in the crime shows and the supernatural shows and the torture movies and the horror movies, and a big part of our business is the professional haunted houses, things like Six Flags and Universal Studios. There was a terrible year for us when the housing market crashed, and that was a terrible year for everybody. That was, I think, 2008, September 2008. That same year, before the housing market crashed, the writers went on strike. There was a writer's strike, and the actors also went on strike. And so there was very little television business and very little film business. I was working on like the Nike Halloween party, and they like canceled it, you know. That was a terrible year for everybody, terrible year for us. But we survived because we have a diversity of business. What we did that year was I actually became a government contractor. And so we do stuff now, in addition to film, television, and haunted houses and Halloween parties. We also do search and rescue training simulations, fire department training simulations, medical training simulations. And so these same bodies, we do life cast realistic bodies. You know, they are the victim of the week on Law and Order. They are the guy that pops out at you at you know, Six Flags, and they're the cadaver that search and rescue is training their guys on. Same bodies, 3 different markets, completely different from each other, and that diversity has helped us to continue growing. Sideshow oddities. We do a lot of work with sideshows, so like Bigfoot footprints, you know, Tibetan carved Capella skulls, 2-headed birds. This is a life casting. This is not fiction. This is a life casting of an actual Peruvian pinhead. They would do skull binding from a very young age to extend the shape of the skull. And this is a fairly extreme example, but this was a very, very common practice, and most of the people from this era showed this sort of distortion to some extent. Mutant fetuses in jars. And over here we've got our vintage coffins. You know, it's a lovely one there. This rustic fellow was rented by Bruce Springsteen one year for Halloween.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's got a nice, you know, Heartland coffin feel to it. One of the things that I'm very serious about with our bodies and with everything here is that we try to keep it authentic. So all of our bodies are life cast. You know, everybody that you see here is somebody that is a real person. It's an exact replica of a real person. And especially in the haunted house business, you see a lot of kind of goofy sculpts, and you know, that can be fun. But one of the things that always bugs me in a haunted house is that I'm 6'2", and a lot of times I'm in a haunted house and all of the characters are like 5'5", and it's just not, you know, it doesn't sell it to me. I need people of all sizes. I especially need some people that are as big as me or even taller. And so we do a lot of life cast bodies. A lot of our guys are like 6 feet tall, you know, and so like the guy behind me is over 6 feet tall. Our Mr. Pincher, our torturer guy over there, he's over 6 feet tall. Our vampire is about a little under 6. When you do a life cast, in addition to the height, you get the volume, you get the folds, you get the wrinkles and the veins popping, and the scaly skin on the elbows, and all of the little details that makes a form believable from any angle and any light. Electric chairs, that character in there is animated. He rocks back and forth and makes sizzling noises. We got werewolves. This guy is strong enough that you can actually sit on him. Again, makes a great photo op. There's definitely been a number of really big projects. I just took my dinosaur all the way to New York and back. He's 28 feet long, 10 feet tall. That's definitely the largest single prop that we own. The first dinosaur project that I did that kind of got the ball rolling on dinosaur stuff was the Conan O'Brien show. You might remember he got Jay Leno's job on The Tonight Show for like a week before they decided to give it back to Leno. Well, you know, he had like a year's worth of budget, and so they started running this joke where, you know, they would try to spend as much of their budget as they could in that week. And so for the very last episode, they wanted a dinosaur skeleton. And they first contacted me and asked if I could get them a T-Rex skeleton. I had like 3 days to get it together, and I didn't have a T-Rex at the time. I couldn't get a T-Rex skeleton in 3 days. They're very big and very much in demand. It wouldn't have even fit on their stage. But I was able to broker a deal and get a giant ground sloth skeleton that was in between exhibits. And so we were able to set up a giant ground sloth on the Conan O'Brien set, and they had him hosing down a Picasso with like a pressurized pump full of caviar, you know, just to waste money, just to be the most expensive thing ever. And you know, and that was the first dinosaur job that we did, and that was a lifelong dream of mine to start doing dinosaurs. And you know, piece of television history, I like to think. There's other things that we've worked on. We've worked on a couple of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I remember for one of those they ordered about 6,000 individual bones. So yeah, it's, you know, and it was specific, you know. There'd be like, we want vertebrae, we want femurs, we want humeruses, no radius, no ulna, only humorous and femurs, you know. So it was like we had to put together 6,000 bones. I mean, this is a big year for us here because a couple of our favorite clients are doing their final season. Dexter is one of them. Breaking Bad is another that we've been working with, both of them since the pilot. You know, I've got some fond memories of working on both of those shows. On Dexter, one of my favorite things that I did with them was they were doing a promotional shoot for the advertising for it, and they called me on set as like the blood splatter guy, which was great, being like the blood splatter guy for the blood splatter guy. And they had them in this white, like, Panama suit. They wanted a rose on his lapel, as you would have in a white Panama suit, but not a real rose. They just wanted it painted on in stage blood. So I mixed up a couple of different colors, a red stage blood and a more brownish stage blood, and I painted right onto his lapel. And it was a little nerve-wracking because they only had one suit, and stage blood stains, so I just got one go at it. and painted a rose onto his lapel, did a little blood splatter, just a little bit of blood splatter around it, little drips to make it look like a blood rose on his lapel, and he wore that for the shoot, and that was fun for me. For Breaking Bad, we did the very first meth lab, which was actually a little bit scary for me because at the time, Breaking Bad didn't mean anything. You know, it wasn't like a name that everybody was familiar with. It was the pilot. You know, we were working on the pilot. This was this new show that, you know, quite honestly, a lot of people you thought was going to be too intense for television. I mean, it's one of the most intense shows that's ever been on cable. You know, not even like HBO. I mean, just regular cable. And so I get this call saying, hey, we're working on the show Breaking Bad about this high school teacher who starts selling meth. I'm like, oh, great. And so they said, we need to set up a meth lab. So can you get us everything we need for a meth lab? That was pretty much it. That was like basically my instructions. Like there was a few things on their shopping list. Like they needed a 2,000 milliliter boiling flask. They needed a Keldal flask because those things came up in the script. But beyond that, it was just everything we need to make meth. So I go on Google. Google's fantastic, and I look up like how to make meth. I go to like Yahoo Answers, and you know, I'm like getting the recipes and the ingredients and like figuring out how to make meth. And then I buy everything I need to make meth. All the glassware, all the chemicals, and you know, just buy it all through Google. Mail it out to this warehouse in New Mexico, and I'm like, wow, if anybody's tracking my search history right now, I look really bad. But never got a call from the FBI about that. There was a halfway house near us, and then we had a problem with people coming into our shop to buy meth equipment. And so we had to keep all that stuff under lock and key. But we do sell glassware, and Breaking Bad has become, you know, an Emmy award-winning series, and it's been a blast to be a part of it. We work with Boardwalk Empire, Vampire Diaries, Supernatural, Law and Order, Bones, Children's Hospital, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, CSI, NCIS. But basically any show in the last 7 years where somebody's died, we've probably worked with them at some point. We did a bunch of severed heads and dismembered body parts for Game of Thrones, which was a really cool one. And like I love that show because it's got a good budget for a TV show, but they make it look like they've got a good budget for a movie. They're just so smart with their props and their sets and all of that. Yeah, one thing that they would do that I thought was really clever was they would rent and buy a bunch of our severed heads, and they would paint them blue, and then blue screen the actor's head in its place. And so there was they would have a physical head, or sometimes it would just be the face, but they would have a physical head there that they could like hold or stick on a spike or roll down the stairs or, you know, drop from a guillotine, something like that. But they were able to make it look, you know, like a high-end copy of the actor's head without having to actually do like a life cast for everybody. So many people get decapitated. You don't want to have to make a life cast of everybody who gets decapitated in that show. Yeah, we've got some like medieval dungeon type equipment over here. Always makes a good photo op for your party. We got safety weapons. You know, these are fun. Stunt weapons. Butcher shop stuff, you know, sides of beef. Ambulance gurney, hospital gurney, autopsy table, used. People have been chopped up on that. We got bone saws, embalming pumps. You know, a lot of productions have moved elsewhere. A lot of our clients are, you know, throughout the US, Canada, and even the world. But there's still more productions in Los Angeles than anywhere else. I looked into moving. You know, when my lease was up in Hollywood, I've been in Hollywood for 3 years. When my lease was up, I looked at all the different places that productions have moved. You know, I looked at New York, I looked at Louisiana, I looked at New Mexico, I looked at Vancouver, and you know, what I found was, yeah, there's a fair amount of productions going on there, but like you look at, you know, a month of productions in Louisiana, maybe there's 100 different shoots going on that month, and that seems like a lot, especially if like 10 years ago there was like 2 shoots going on. But you look at that same month in Los Angeles, and there's like 6,000 different shoots going on in a month of Los Angeles, and so there's enough productions, there's so many productions going on here that you get the support industry with it. You know, I couldn't move my shop to Vancouver, you know, because there's not enough productions in Vancouver where enough people die each week that, you know, we need to send out a body a day. And the end of the tour is our dogs and animals section. You know, we've got a wide array of prop dogs, you can see. A couple of prop cats, some prop pigs, a lot of severed animal heads, a couple of monkeys, and you know, just a whole great variety of stuff. So, do horror movies still scare me? Yeah, actually they do. And I think it's important working in this business to still feel because I don't want to be like jaded and calloused, and also I need to know what's scary. I need to know what gets people, you know, like if I was a baker, you know, I'd want to know what people thought was, you know, what people find sweet, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, horror movies do still scare me. Not as much as they used to, but if it's well written, if it's got good characters, if there's real peril, you know, involved, or real things that like get under your skin and really like, yeah, you know, it can still get to me. I'm proud of that.
HDSLR Shooter, sponsored by Black Magic Design, Carl Zeiss, and